then we are thinking that we will wrap up a bit earlier depending on how well we perform. So, today we have some things to finish. In particular, we want to content-wise explore this topic of social innovation. We put forward last time, but not really explored with more depth. Then we want to ask you some feedback on the course. So after this probably short presentation on social innovation, we will take an extended break in which we ask you to give us some feedback on the course. Finally, we will present you the personal assignment, the individual assignment you will have to deliver. And we will ask you to read all the topics which we propose between today and tomorrow. And tomorrow we will have a class on question and answer specifically about the exam. Okay? Totally optional. Whoever wants to show up shows up. Whoever doesn't want to show up does not show up. Questions such as, how many pages do we have to write, even if it's written there, when is the delivery date, even if it is written there, what are the topics, even if they're written there, these things which are good to check if we're all on the same page, okay? Last thing, but this is really, hold on, I'll tell you later. Okay, good. So before we start with the content of this week, anything which was left from before? Any questions which were lingering? Points which were left? Okay. So, this week's topic is on social innovation, and I would start, actually, I would start from you. What do you think constitutes social innovation? Okay, you have two words, one of which is innovation, so you should be able to...
First, do you think that innovation has per se a positive impact on society or not? Innovation, per se, as a concept, is always a positive impact on society or not?
So two sides, which sense?
In a sense that innovation, even though it solves a majority of problems, it also brings up another majority of problems, which if we may not be careful, we may end up in a loop of finding solutions for problems which again would give rise to another problem.
Could you give an example in this sense?
Yes. For example, innovative idea of transportation. First, the problem was speed. Then we tried to actually accelerate more to reach our destination in less time, but then the problem was the pollution. Then we tried to have some innovative idea about the engine design and fuels to get rid of air pollution, and then it brought up to the fact that now they say, but even the less destructive fuels, you are going to lose another resource, which, if I'm not wrong, we are going to lose our fossil fuels if we go producing these things. Then we said, okay, we would exchange it with nuclear power, which nuclear power gave rise to another problem. We are always innovating and having a big problem.
So in this sense, the shift in the technology, because this is more technological innovation, brings, maybe eliminates one initial problem which we set, but creates another one, which might be in terms of sustainability, which might be also in some totally different aspect, because from transportation, we go into climate problems.
Yes, but it is not only the point. I just made an example of transportation. You could think it in telephone systems. First, we had the problem of reaching one another and talking to one another. Then phones and telephones and mobile phones. Then they say that the signal may not be healthy for our body, so you could put it away. Then they would design some phones which, for example, do not have this FPGA and this jack, so it consumes less power, and then it's another problem.
Okay. even more than this, okay, this is definitely relevant, but I'm thinking of also there's another field. Were there any other? Yeah.
According to social innovation, sometimes it's good for a society, but it's not good for another. Like, let's say, like innovation of producing factories and taking some oil or something like that. A lot of countries, like you were saying, something like that, they are very innovative, but they have a lack of resources. So one of the politicians in economics at the same time, he says that the war in Iraq and Afghanistan is just like economical hitman conspiracy. So it creates a very good impact for social innovation, but it's not good for another country or another society. So in some cases, yeah, innovation is very good, but we have to control it. We have to control the resources.
Okay. Other opinions on this? This also relates to the contention of resources, in the sense that when one innovation arises which addresses one field, the resources which are used to make this, which in case this is a product, the resources which are required to produce this product become a point of contention, one which might overexploit the land on which it is gathered on. Okay, definitely. Other ideas on this ethical standpoint to innovation?
I think it's social responsibility in this topic, because sustainability is not only related to financial aspects, only about financial revenue. It's also about the impact in environment and the impact in society. So a project must be able to cover the three aspects: financial, environment, and society. And sometimes we don't have an answer for the three aspects. So we can provide another endeavors, complementary endeavors, projects in order to contribute to society to reduce that impact. Probably my big project is related to energy, for instance. And probably I'm contributing in that line. And probably I have a revenue certainly assured. But sometimes my project can impact environment, can impact society, and with unforeseen situations. So I think in that situation, the social responsibility is very important, very present, because I need to balance the situation. How to balance that? It's in a way giving back something. Okay, I'm using the resources of some land. I'm impacting the society that we're living there. I'm impacting the environment. So, in what way I'm giving back? Or my object and my final, or I'm pursuing only financial or the personal interest of my stakeholders. So I think that's the opportunity for social innovation. A company can reduce the secondary risk factors. It's like the example of I ever seen the example of project in country project in arts, for instance. Probably in arts the money is not abundant, it's not an abundant resource. He explained that, but he has another capital to offer as a giving back to society, which is go and intervene at a farm and bring their knowledge, their own capital, which is art, to society, to collaborate, for instance, to reduce their so it's not money, but it's an impact, because that is probably as efficient as the camera surveillance in that moment, and that is measurable.
Okay. Okay, so
there's another point which I want to highlight, which is the following. So, what happens, for example, if you have innovations in warfare? Like you invent better bombs, you invent smarter missiles, you invent more efficient guns. Is this still innovation? Yes.
It's a deadly innovation.
It's a deadly innovation in the sense
Destructive innovation.
it's destructive in the sense that it aims at doing something like evil. But is this still innovation according to you?
Everything new is innovation.
Well, arguably. I mean, this is not so clear cut because we have. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
It's data mixed not that that's improving the technology. I want to create a new kind of mission.
Of course, but we have seen other examples of innovation which are incremental and which are still innovations.
Yeah.
Okay? So in this sense, if you go back to the definition which we gave, which was about the transformative potential of innovation, so the innovation being that thing which enables you to change the truth value of a statement, if you remember, we can say that I can make a technology for which the statement man can kill 20 people was before not true and now it is. So in this sense it represents, it has this transformative potential. But, so is there anybody that thinks that negatively connoted innovation is not innovation in some way? Or goes against what we have?
It depends on the use of the innovation. Because, for example, nuclear energy wasn't invented for destroying for killing, and then they invented.
So the example of, so you said in the example of nuclear research, nuclear physics, this wasn't originally devised with the idea of being a weapon, but then was later weaponized. Okay, yeah, this is for sure. What I'm wondering is whether we have kept as an assumption the fact that innovation has an ethical connotation, which we're now denying. What do you think about this? Do you think that innovation has this ethical component to it or not?
I think that this strongly depends on the use that mankind decides to make of the new technology, because which is linked to what you said, because even a weapon, before being a weapon, is just technology which can be exploited for the best. But of course the human has a choice, and the choice could be exploited for a bad purpose. But I think this is beyond the point of the innovation. It's a matter of choice of who is going to exploit it.
So your argument is that innovation does not have an ethical value per se, but it's ethical. It has an ethical or unethical use, depending on how it's actually applied in the world. Okay.
Actually, some kinds of innovations, like innovating a weapon, which is very accurate, very smart weapon, the only usage for that weapon is just to destroy or kill.
Well, what I'm saying,
Huh?
That's not true, because you need to use a bomb to kill someone. And for example, in the last during the Cold War, the innovation on weapon was the balance that balanced the world between the two superpower, US and USSR.
Yeah.
Where they compete in innovating their weapons, doing better bombs without using it, because you know you protect them if you use it. So it's the way to create a balance in that case.
In the current situation, it's not.
Yes,
It's not.
that's true.
Like innovating a lot of weapons, and you have to do some, let's say, a market on your weapons. You have to do a POC on it. So a lot of places, especially in my country,
I agree.
they are doing a POC on the people just to prove that their weapons is just very accurate and very destructive.
I
Very
agree.
massive weapons. So it's not ethical. A lot of innovations, yeah, it's not ethical, but yeah, it's not ethical, but it's still innovation.
the question, okay.
According to
Yeah,
The question in some sense is this: do we put an ethical standpoint to the concept of innovation at large, or do we put an ethical standpoint on the use of some innovations?
maybe your vision is different than the others, Because maybe you can say the water is under inflation because it's not ethical, but according to the others, I'm making money, so what? I don't care about the rules.
I think innovation is neutral in aspect of ethics. And talking about guns and weapons, if we reduce them to a knife can be used, of course, knife can be more used as peaceful instruments rather than a weapon. But the point is that if we make a knife which is always sharp, doesn't get ruined, and actually it always sustains good condition, it is very innovative, and it can be rather used as a weapon, rather be used as a tool in our kitchen, rather be used as a tool for hunting, which is again in some aspects not a good thing to do. And talking about the use, even about a good missile, which has the most innovative ideas and is very accurate, and it can kill as much as possible. If it is used for defending, well, we don't have any other choice. Even considering this competing war, which if you are going to, in my opinion, I might be blamed for being sharp and harsh, but if you put your hands on your feet and be an honest, good person, you could be 100% sure that your enemy is going to make that and is going to drop that on your mind.
And furthermore, there could be the argument of, what if I make a weapon that kills less, that has less, what do you call it? Casualties, but casualties is not my point. Collateral damage, does less collateral damage. You might argue this is an innovation in the sense that it fulfills the goal of possibly killing some people, which due to some circumstances you're deemed as your enemies, without causing damage to other people or to other infrastructure which might be in the area.
Yes, it is a perfect innovation. It is a perfect innovation, and I actually, the big problem I see is that the greed of humanity. We are always considering the, let's say, the worst case scenario. But if you are going to make innovation in some aspects that do not harm to the people that do not deserve it, then it is also an innovation.
Okay, so what I think we have agreed up until now, but this is of course still open for debate. If you come up with another observation, is that we do not put.
I mean, obviously there are no right answers to this kind of question. It's more an open answer that you need to try to solve yourself. Also, kind of a reflection that you could do as we in the future probably for what you're studying now, it will be. Need to work on something. You will create some new technology, or we create some new services, or some new also new products, and maybe it could arise this kind of question yourself. How do I behave in a situation like this? This is something that is better. But we are talking about social innovation, which is more. Precise topic and precise.
Just the last point.
Yeah.
So up until now, we have said we keep innovation as a neutral concept with respect to ethics, and we just focus on the transformative potential, and we just focus on the value generation component of it. Okay. And this is where we are going with social innovation. So innovation, we have discussed it now, okay, also with respect to ethics. And the social component here lies in the fact that we say, okay, we try to generate value going beyond the economic impact and towards other aspects of it. Quality of life, well-being, we have seen the an artistic perspective, but we go beyond the economic focus without going without excluding it, but beyond this, saying there might also be more. So in some way, we are proposing something, we are talking about something which goes beyond the development of a product and also starts seeing about the development of a process. Much in the way, well, okay, also going beyond the product. And we are also assuming, and we will explore later how this becomes, that this will have an impact on the policy. So what, since policy is kind of a word, especially for Italian people, is strange, can somebody help us define policy?
Guidance.
What?
Guidance.
Guidelines, yeah. Okay, policy is some sort of guidance, to which sense?
Rules, guidelines, suggestions, and topic.
Okay, depending on what you want to address, it might constitute some sort of rules, regulations, guidelines, which are proposed by, typically by
An organization or a
a government or a organization which is the role of regulating, the role of being able to influence how and what people are allowed to do from a legal or from an economic or perspective, but also from an incentives point of view. Okay, others, there was another voice.
It was me, and I was one asking if you mean by policy the political view or the regulation view. I got the answer.
So there's both sides to this, of course, because every regulation has a political component to it.
Actually, in that case, we could define it as a plan of behavior in some aspects.
Like what, for example?
Like the policy I forgot the right word. The policy you can take into consideration for a problem. It is not a rule or regulation. You define a set of plans and decisions to overcome the problem.
Okay, so you might say like a emergency evacuation policy in this sense. So you're saying I define a set of rules and a set of procedures.
Plans, let's say plans.
Plans and procedures to follow in case some contingency happens,
Exactly.
which forces me to adopt them. Okay. This is also another definition. Other? Okay, so I think this is good enough. So the next question is, in some sense, is if I say social innovation, what do you think about? What am I doing if I'm saying I'm doing social innovation?
Basic income.
Basic income. Basic income is a form of social innovation. In which sense?
Because it's a program that brings something new to people that is not as profitable, doesn't give any economical value to the readers, I think. Basically, it brings something new to people.
So if I am the policy maker that in some way implements social innovation, I'm not doing something which is profitable for myself. I'm doing something which might be profitable to some segments of society, but this is not purely about the economic value, because if they would be working, they would be getting more money. So my focus is not on the economical perspective, but on the social value in some way, or whatever it is that I'm generating for these people. Okay. So in this sense, the basic income is surely one example. Others?
Even if it don't exist already. So it's a possible idea.
Social networks.
Social networks, in which sense?
Makes sense. It's an innovation that makes me know you without having to say, without you can't cover it together and you can share all ideas and you can make you believe it's my idea with just a post or something like that. And I can do whatever I want with the social networks. And I can get a lot of believers in my own region.
So in some way,
it has a social, it has social impact, which is
So in some way, as an amplifier of your thoughts, a social network represents an outlet for social innovation in the sense that you are not getting out of it profit, but you might be getting outreach in terms of people that know you. You might be getting convenience in the point of view that you might want to know other people and so on. So incongruent with respect to social networks, what do you think, because this is an interesting example, what do you think are some direct ways in which social networks have generated or detracted or in any way changed value in our lives? They changed a lot, yes, but some concrete example. Privacy.
For example, if you want to share something, you can publish it all the time. But if you want to share something with specific people, it's difficult.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, so you're saying it's easy to share something in the public, so to a large audience, where it is more difficult to share it with only the specific people you want. So in this sense, the social networks has made us rethink of how we value our privacy. So how we value the ability to say people stay off my life. Okay, this is interesting. Other opinions on this? Some other voices. Just for the sake of equality. I would argue that even some words have changed their meaning with social networks. What are possible examples? Sorry, just switch on the lights. Can you think of words which have changed their meaning because of social networks? Popularity. So from what to what?
I believe that popularity changed shape as our relations. The concept of popularity is now uploading the best photo to gain the most number of likes and comments in order to get the most number of followers on Instagram and even Twitter.
So, and how do you think this was before? So you said there is transformative potential, okay? So now it's a matter of finding the type of content which gets the most traction in terms of likes, followers, and whatever is the measure. So how was it before?
I can say that an example, and then we will do the other justice. Actually, before, the popular celebrity was a writer or an actor. But now we can see that there are some people uploading funny videos and having like 5 million followers.
So you're saying the reasons for popularity changed from being driven by, in some way,
from being intellectual to funny.
Intellectual or skills driven to being more than funny, I would argue, being able to analyze what people would more easily want to have in more quantity.
Yes.
Okay, this is interesting. Others?
He said friends.
Who said friends? Friends, in which sense?
In the sense that with Facebook, friends are the people that I am in contact with. But before Facebook, friends have a deepest meaning and was more valuable.
Okay, that's for sure. Also in the sense that if you ask somebody how many friends do you have, probably the next question which you are going to get is, do you mean on Facebook or do you mean like real friends? Right? So in this sense, it has created, this is exactly a very good point of overloading the meaning of a word. Because a word which had one meaning now has two meanings. And you need to be able to distinguish between the two of them because they are in some way related, but they're not exactly the same thing or not necessarily. Okay, this is a very good point. Either words or concepts or social forms of social interactions which have changed because of social networks?
Also, the freedom of speech has changed because now everything is freedom of speech. Even if I say something that is absolutely not true or stupid, I still can defend myself by saying I have the freedom to say it. While in the real world, maybe you think twice before saying something stupid.
Okay, so freedom of speech has changed in the sense that before the social networks, we had to consider the consequences of our actions and of our words, while the cost of doing this has been reduced through the social networks. So now some people are more inclined to say whatever is on their mind because they can gain the traction of one or two people, which in some way will create an echo chamber, at which point they can just defend themselves by saying, well, I am free to say whatever I want to say. Okay, yes, definitely. Other social interactions?
For example, before, if you study some Facebook, so in order to know, like, in 10 years what happened with this person, you, like, will take my parents daily to, like, meet in 20 years, and there's also right who is married or not. Because now, basically, I don't have any school meetings, because if I want to know any news, I will just go on Facebook and see what's happening with this person. So basically not that interesting, and we don't have anything to talk about, because we know what's happening in this person.
So in some way, this superficial level of acquaintance has been changed in the sense that I do not longer need to make a huge investment in finding the phone numbers of all these people, calling them up, setting up a meeting, meeting them in person, then have this idle talk just to understand if they got married, if they have kids, if what they studied their life. You can just open Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever and see all their movements in the last 10 years. Okay, yeah, this is for sure. There was another one there.
Instant messaging.
Instant messaging, okay.
Before the social networks, there were just SMS, and we used to write little things and important because we had to pay for it. But with the social networks and the chatting associated with them, we spend a lot of time writing everything to our friends because now it's free.
So the way in which we communicate in a written form has been transformed by the fact that we have reduced the cost of this, and we have reduced the cost from an economic perspective in the sense that you no longer have to pay for each SMS, and therefore, since you have a lesser cost, you are inclined to write more of these messages, like breaking them up more often, for example?
Yes, but also for a more, it's more comfortable writing with Facebook since while I'm waiting for an answer from my friend, I can plot the pages. But with the messaging, I just write a message and we go, and usually I miss the response. I mean, it's less fast.
Okay, so in some way there is also a level of convenience to this. We have created a layer of convenience done by the fact that everything is done from one single place. So I can multitask more easily with respect to these interactions. Okay, I just want to, if there are other examples? Yes?
I think news spread has gained a very faster rate to spread. Before social networks, if anything happened in Italia, for example, it would take at least hours for me in Iran to understand it. But now, when it happens, it becomes the first trend in Italia, and it's very easy for me to understand what's up there.
Well, it's not very easy to understand what's up there, I would argue, but it's easy to know that something is happening and have the broad strokes of it.
Yes, it's the broad of the news.
And you have some broad, if you quickly get the broad strokes of what's happening, even if for the nitty-gritty you might need to wait still long, but to get alerted of what is happening way more quickly, so you have a reduced response time in this sense.
And also, I can extend it to the fact that we could say at previous times it would be possible for something to take place and other societies would not know about it. But now it's quite impossible. Everything that happens, the whole world knows it.
So unless a society is particularly, or a segment of society is particularly secluded, if something happens, because for example, we found out about an explosion in North Korea like 1 month afterwards.
Yeah.
Because if somebody isolates themselves in this sense, it's harder to do this process.
Unless they are not isolated,
it's easy to know, it's the spreading of the news is way faster and it's hard to control. It's hard to deny posts in some way.
Also, we are less connected to the physical place we are in because there are many virtual environments, let's say, and in our mind we are in different places, not only, we are less considering the physical environment and more the virtual environment, like Facebook or the other side where we can find others and share information.
So we are less tied to the physical constraints also of the environment in which we live in, because we have access to other pieces of infrastructure which allow us to reshape this environment according to what we want.
The concept of the place is changed.
The concept of a physical place,
Physical place.
it has changed the meaning in a sense that since I can use some piece of infrastructure, I can reshape it, or I can add, even without somebody being there, I can be in touch with them by calling them or by putting their face on the screen or whatever. Okay, yes. So one last thing when I'm done.
I think the reputation also.
Okay.
Reputation, like, I can give you an example to this personal quote. In my country, we have a company, only one company, which is an ISP, and afterwards we got a new company to gain more to enter the market. The company must have customers. So the company started to create a fake users on Facebook, and they started to attack the already existing company. They were saying their services is just like nothing, and their services are too bad. And a lot of customers, they saw their fake, let's say their fake reviews, and after that they moved from the already existing company to the new company. And according to the social media, they destroyed the reputation of the other company, and the previous company it's gone, and all of the customers went to the new company.
Okay, so in some way you are exchanging the value of reputation because you are able to create some resonance which might amplify feelings and shift reputation very quickly. Okay, one last point which I want to put on the table in this sense, just one more concept which has changed with respect to social networks before we move on with the social innovation, is dating. Because the way in which you approach another person which you're interested in dating has totally changed because of social networks. Because now you're able to do what before was tied in some way to the people which you knew, and you were forced to invest some time into asking other people that know the person you're interested in, what do you think about, what does she like, what does he like, and all of this now can be found by Facebook, Google, or whatever. So in some way, these superficial interactions, even the ones that have the potential of going very deeply, have changed by virtue of these of social networks.
But it has not increased the progress, no?
Sorry?
In my opinion, it hasn't increased the progress.
What do you mean?
You still have to spend that amount of time.
Of course, you still have to spend the same amount of time, but the quality and the has changed in the sense that it is not all in the same way. So there is definitely a different chain that leads to whatever it leads. Okay, so
going back to the previous one, before going to the preview. So going back to the social innovation, of course, social network could be seen as we saw as something that have a potential on innovate socially, this kind of new value impact which is beyond the economic, and change the way we interact, change the way we produce some value, which could be the friendship, which could be the relation with other people, etc. Not only the one, maybe now is the biggest one, the one that we saw the more impact that we have now. but there are other different kind of social innovation that could be happening in the society with different levels, as we see in the next slide.
Now I guess that's
just to understand why we arrived to these three main categories that we could see in social innovation.
So we arrive in this category in the sense that we, and we will see now, and we will exemplify now, what it means to approach this topic of social innovation from different levels. From one which is more straightforward, which is what we call the narrow view, and which we will define in the next minutes, to one which is more broad, which is that of systemic transformation. So let's see now, starting for each of these categories, which I just wanted to put there just to have you see the names of them. Let's go deeper into each of them.
By the way, social innovation is a term, as a concept that is used in official policy. Let's say that is, in this sense, these three view are the three view and the three layer of social innovation that are recognized by, for example, the European Commission, which is one of the main drivers to push the concept of social innovation in the last 10 years, more or less. Something more maybe now, but and for some reason that we could discuss, and if you want to be more in detail, we can discuss it, but it is for providing for political reasons, let's say, for the European Union and the policymaker from all the European countries saw an opportunity in social innovation to face the consequences of the crisis of 2008. It is the main ideas. Then there are other ones. So this is not something that we came up, but it's something that is really also in the official documents, in the official policy. You can find when you find a call for example, for research project, but also for other kind of financing from the European Commission. They always ask how what you are proposing has some kind of social impact or has some answer to some societal challenge, for example, which is one of the main issues that now the European Commission puts in every document and in every report. So this.
And we have something on this there. And we also have some references for which one we ask that you actually read, which we're going to show there. So, starting from the narrow view, the idea is here that of going very much straightly by definition. Generation of value beyond economic terms. In addressing more vulnerable segments of society, and in creating an action which is either charitable, in the sense that it's helping these people, or it is in some way trying to, going beyond the purely economic perspective. So, what are examples which you think could fall into this broad definitions? Any social security program? Yes. Okay, so providing shelter for homeless people might be an example of social innovation in the sense that we are addressing a weaker segment of society and we are trying to provide a solution to their problems. Okay. Other ideas in this sense?
Public transport.
Public transport, okay, in which sense?
In the sense that without the public transport, the people that have not a car would work or bike for very long distances, or they have to buy a car, but especially the socially vulnerable group that public transport hazard for me is the underage students, because they have to go to school, but they cannot drive a car, and so it is useful.
So in this sense, you are addressing, you are improving their quality of life.
Yes.
So you're creating a value which is a value of quality of life, not purely economic because you're making them save money, but also making their lives easier in the sense that they save time.
Yes.
Okay, that's for sure.
For example, discount for students in transportation also for you, for personal students. Yeah, way to have this segment of society which are students that maybe could not use their cars and use if they have cars or they don't pollute or don't go create a traffic jam, and at the same time they use the service. So this could be.
You said public transport, if I got it correct.
Yes.
Now, what do you think about Flixbus?
Also,
Flixbus could be seen.
Flixbus made the journey more easy. I mean, they have free Wi-Fi. It's more comfortable.
So do you think it could fit?
Yes, it's free.
Okay, other examples in this sense?
I don't know if because now it changed a little bit their business model. BlaBlaCar at the beginning was something for people who were looking for data.
Yeah, so in some way, the sharing of the cars in the BlaBlaCar model was creating, in this sense, well, okay, arguably, but I think it fits quite well in the narrow view, in the sense that it is like helping people that, for example, might have the same public transportation issue find a customized ride, like somebody maybe doing the same trip himself. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Tell me in a simple sentence. Tell me, because I don't know, what is the difference for Italian from Flexibus to some company like Italo? Because what is so important and so innovative about Flexibus? Isn't it something like Italo or
The model. The model.
What is the model?
The model they use. For the Italian regulation, Flixbus is not a transport company. It's a technology company. It's kind of because they base their model on providing licensing their platform to companies that own buses that they can use to get people in it and do as well.
There's not some kind of transportation.
No, they don't own the buses, or they just on the platform.
Imagine people who need transport, cheap transport with companies who have buses. Talking about
Yeah.
it's not a train.
I understand.
Others in this category?
You can go.
Public vaccination.
Public?
Vaccination.
Public vaccination, okay. In which sense?
In the sense that, for example, there is a new sickness and a strong medical company performs public vaccination, for example, for children of the society, with no charge, just to actually immune them and protect them.
So the vulnerable group in that case are children.
Children who are, yes, who are in danger of this.
Yes, this is a good one. And this, of course, is a... Okay, so the second view is that of societal challenges, which I also put the link here, which you will find in the slide deck. If you go here, you will see examples of societal challenges, which are here. We have put some we have also mentioned, right? Health, climate, food, security and privacy, transportation, all of these are what the so-called societal challenges. Even more than this, projects in the framework program, such as the ones, the EIT itself, is defined as addressing one of these challenges. So if you're doing anything about European projects in your future, you will see that each of your projects will need to fall underneath one of these umbrellas. It's not doing innovation for the sake of doing innovation, or it's not research for the sake of research. It is in some way framed inside one of these societal challenges. Okay? So by societal challenges, what we mean in general is these big problems which address the society at large without going into a specific vulnerable part of the population. So it's no longer the children, it's no longer the students who have the car, it's the whole society. Because if we have a problem with the sustainability of our food, it's not just the children who are not eating, it's everybody who is not eating. If we have a problem with climate, it's not just a specific vulnerable region which might be threatened, but it's the whole world which might be threatened. Right? So, any examples of products, processes of social innovation which address societal challenges? Renewable energy. Okay.
It changed a lot of things, like the security environment, because there's no pollution came from it, and we can use a lot of unused reformed resources like wind, water, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very good example of social.
So renewable energy mainly addresses 2 points, which are that of energy and that of climate. So in the sense that we are shifting and we are rebalancing our use of resources, and we are trying to produce more energy in ways which are more efficient, less impactful from a climatic perspective, and so on. Definitely. Other ideas?
Vaccines in general, I mean, it's a means by which we can improve the general health of the society, because people get sick.
Vaccination campaigns which are done horizontally, like the ones which has been proposed now in Italy, everybody should be vaccinated by a certain age, are in some way trying to address the societal challenge of reducing the diseases. In the sense that we're no longer targeting just children, because we might have the idea that a certain disease might be particularly deadly for the children, but we are targeting the entire population. That's for sure.
Another thing like the social networks monitoring with the natural language processing.
Okay.
It's a very strange thing, but I can't explain. In some countries, I don't remember the country, but it is a very famous country with exchanging heroin or something like that. A lot of exchangers, they are using the social networks like WhatsApp and Facebook and something like that to exchange these kind of things instead of using the deep web. And this country used a Facebook node in their environment, and they used the natural language processing application to understand the messages and transfer between each two parts inside the country. According to this system that they used, they reduced the number of crimes related to this kind of things to the half and whole family, just using this technology.
So in this sense, leveraging digital technology to address criminal elements in society is also a way of generating social value for the entire collectivity. Definitely. Other ideas?
The new general data protection regulation that will be enacted in 25 May this year.
So data protection is another social value. What it is?
Because they will oblige all the company to review the system to guarantee the privacy of the clients. So it's actually one of the vulnerabilities. So
Yes, it was actually there.
it's privacy and security.
It's actually secure societies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So data regulation is one way in which we can improve. We can make our society more secure from this time from a data perspective.
Yeah.
Oops. A little bit too far. Others? Well, if you go here, you will see that some of these also go towards demographic change. So, for example, we haven't discussed this much this year, but the problem of aging is one of the biggest problems in Europe at the moment. Europe as a society is having a higher and higher average age of the citizen. Life expectancy is still rising, but the amount of children which we're having are decreasing. And we are balancing this through immigration coming from poor countries, especially from Africa and some parts of Asia, which are the only ones which are really productive in terms of children. And this is also part of the societal challenges of Europe. So this is maybe beyond climate and security. The final point is the following, that of systemic transformations. So here we speak about bottom-up empowerment of actors in the society, and this goes to the realm of what is called now, for example, co-creation, and what is called, I think it's co-creation is the main label which we're seeing now. So we are trying to create a network of actors which are normally not in charge of, not able to influence directly the policy, and we are seeking them to become self-sustaining in the future. So we are seeking them to take ownership of the process and then conduct it themselves. With the expectation of having a feedback loop towards policy making. So as a policy driver, I propose something for the citizens, and then I'm expecting the citizens themselves, with this empowerment, to feedback onto me as a policymaker to provide some novel solutions, or some solution at all, or to at least make the system which I propose as a policymaker sustainable. Do you have examples of this? Systemic transformations?
Yeah.
Okay. So, maybe you want to try to explain it differently, so it's a different voice as well?
Yeah. Okay. Differently from the previous one, the societal challenges, where you have a top-down, let's say, approach. So in this case, there are, for example, the European framework that guides you with what are the societal challenges that you want to address. The idea of systemic transformation is to change, transform systematically a society by empowering the actors that normally are not connected together or are not empowered to make action and to do and to change how the society works, for example, and make them also sustainable. So to create the network between actors. So, for example, citizens that can start a process, a new process of, I don't know, governing something, and make it sustainable during time and expand the way they work to other countries or to other places, for example. This is something that, for example, is common. It's something that we can saw in the what are called common pool resource management, which are the commons, the so-called commons or common goods, which are the goods that communities can manage themselves, like for example basins of water or forest or fishing stock, for example, where people, actors that use the resource are the one in charge of make the resource sustainable over time, for example. So you don't want, you are a fisher, you don't want that the fish stock go to zero, because otherwise you don't feed your family anymore. So you want that the fish reproduce, so you need to put some limitation on fishing. And you put themselves at the beginning. Then during the time, this expand and become a regulation. But at the beginning, where the fishermen put a regulation over fishing, for example. So this is the same for other kind of new way that we can co-create within a society, linking together and empower actors to act.
So, in this sense, there's another reflection which can be made, which is, well, first, if you have any examples of this, other examples which you can imagine, but then what happens when this approach goes wrong? In the sense that, so with any common resource, well, actually, let's actually explore this in this sense. So, what are examples of this type of systemic transformations which you have experienced, known about, or anything, and if you've seen them going positively or negatively?
I don't know if it's right, but I think post offices and banks, at least.
Post offices and banks, okay.
Yeah, there was, the banks now are like no more directed by, governed by the state, but private entity, while we were trying to do the same thing for the post offices, I think. But
okay, so you're saying we did a systemic change in the sense that we have untied the banks from their central governments, and in some way they have took their own autonomy, even possibly more, too much of this autonomy, and they have been able to self-regulate themselves, going beyond the state control. Is this your point?
Yeah. One point of an example of this one.
Well, I mean, for sure they have this kind of feedback loop towards the policy making, in the sense that once they have been untied, now we do see some situations in which bank decisions affect policy and politics and state systems.
For example, Bitcoin could be something that you can see as started as a systemic transformation, at least at the beginning. Now we are in the process, so we don't know how it goes. But at least at the beginning, for sure was a way to produce a transformation and to connect together actors, people, which can create their own money, their currency by mining, etc., etc. But and untying people from central banks or from other kind of state or whatever institutional levels. So in that sense, Bitcoin could be a systemic transformation, at least for me, at least at the beginning. Now we can discuss, but as it started, for sure.
It started, it definitely, like the whole blockchain thing definitely started with that ambition. How it actually turned out to be is arguable. Other examples?
A question. Is this related to decentralization? I mean, up until now we are talking about systems that were centralized, and in some way they come up with a new system which is decentralized. Is this strictly related to this, or just happened that example we made up till now?
It is definitely strictly related. It's not equivalent. because you have some situations in which you might still have some decentralized strong powers controlling a system. It could give, well, maybe you could see the EU government in this sense. It's still a central government. Okay, you haven't empowered the single states. You've just collected them together in a single point and decentralized some of their powers. Does it? I think it kind of holds. So, but it's not strictly the same way. So it's not just a matter of taking something, splitting it into chunks, giving it away. It's more in the sense of taking actors which normally don't have power, don't have stake into a process, and raising them up, empowering them to affect this process. Other examples?
Maybe some center for people with some disabilities or all people. There are some organizations that are called by government or by the church, and then they will grow, and as the people will pay for services, they will become self-sustaining.
So some charity organizations, in some way, that have been delegated or passed on to those people that were targeting themselves. I think there might be some examples if you go into the religious, in the church, even though I don't have some specifics. You could say even the Alcoholisti Anonymous alcoholics, or those kind of communities for drug addicts, for example. They are managed by those drug addicts themselves, and they became sustainable in their own ecosystem.
Are the communication like the internet that starts from a public company and then becomes private?
Okay, so what's I would say?
I mean that initially the communication like there was a public company, then becomes a private company, because at the beginning no one can afford to build a network, so the government
Okay, I see your point. This is more of a change from a public to private corporation and vice versa. I don't really think this is a systemic transformation.
Maybe it apply to, for example, the free radio movement in the 70s, where people started to broadcast their radio from their apartments without any kind of control or regulation. And then after that, a lot of people started their own radio privately. Then the regulator and the policy making came with a regulation over that and allowed them to broadcast. And they put the then licensing and other kind of regulation for broadcast. But at least at the beginning, people started with a bottom-up approach to broadcast over the radio spectrum and start their own program.
Well, in our very ideal world, this course would have also been some sort of a systemic transformation course, in the sense that we are trying to empower you, the students, to take control over the course, to have the roles, to have some actors which are able to influence what we deliver in the class. The battles also do this. Depending on what you discuss in the battles, we actually need to pad some topics instead of some others. And you will also see this later. So this is another example of co-creation in some sense. How can it go wrong? Well, in our case, we have some problems of critical mass, in the sense that if we have too many people, our model becomes totally unsustainable, and we are not able to co-create anymore just because there's so many different opinions and actors in the class. Vice versa, if it becomes too small, there's also no point, because it almost becomes a one-to-one relation. Okay, so some papers here, of which the last one we would like to ask you to take as a necessary reading, and we will upload it on the website. Conclude this presentation on the social innovation. We thought it would be good to wrap up our content in this way, because in some way we started from Matteo and we ended with Matteo. So this is a good tribute for us. All right, so now we propose this. We take a break, but we do it in this way. It is 3:15, and we propose that you get up until 3:40. But we have some feedback questions here, which we would like you to answer during the break, and you deliver them to the customer service or the housekeeper. You just write them on a scrap of piece of paper. Anonymously, totally anonymously, okay? So there's no, and we will not run handwriting recognition systems to trace back who wrote what, okay? So we go outside. Well, we will be taking our own break, okay? So these 3 questions are questions which you will not have on the S3 questionnaire, which you will be able, which you will need to file anyway before taking the exam, okay? These are more qualitative, and these are more because we need these kind of opinions, okay? So we reconvene at 3:40. I ask you to please take a piece of paper and do this for us. At 3:40, we present the assignment, and then we say it out. We have 2 last points of statistics, and we say it out, okay? 3:40, sharp, we restart.
You can write the answer is 30 seconds now, and then
first. Okay, first. Tomorrow evening, since we were asked, we were thinking of making another dinner together, because some people could not attend, and they said, can we do it again in the future? And we said, okay, sure. So maybe we can do something like this. Hands up now. If you want to be up, you're up for dinner tomorrow evening. As long as it's not just like 3 of us. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 3. Okay. So let's do like this. I'll give you a link later, and maybe you can like sign up on the link, so just we can get a head count of who's there. Okay. Second to last thing, all the people always have a role. So like Critical Minds, Seeker, Webmaster, all these. Please stop here as we finish the lecture in 3 minutes time. Okay. Last point is this. The individual assignment. So we propose you a template which is basically the same as the one for the battle report as far as the structure is concerned. And we will send you the LaTeX link later as well. So we'll have here the guidelines of how it works. So in a nutshell, it's this. We have 6 topics, 1 for every battle, and they give different angles to what we have explored in the class. So for example, just taking the one with Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. So this one is on how, because since we have not seen this, on how Bill Gates and Microsoft saved Steve Jobs and Apple in the 1990s. Okay, so it is on like unexpected collaborations in the industry between competing actors. Uber versus taxis is on the sharing economy, platform economies. Well, there's 7 of them, 1 for every topic, each of them being a different angle. We ask you that you deliver us 3 to 5 pages with a very loose format, which is simply okay, introduction, main fact, main issues, discussions, conclusions, that's it. And 3 references, websites, articles which you have used, whatever. So 3 to 5 pages. We will evaluate it 0 to 15 based on the usual criteria, which we'll always also see in in the template here. And up to 2 points, if you propose your own topic, it's basically, I would say, a reasonable way of doing this is going to be 2 points if you propose your own topics and improve it, unless it is the slight variations of one of those, in which case we give you 1 point. Okay? So if you give us a slight variation on the ones which we have proposed ourselves, like saying, okay, I will take this one, but actually for a different sub-question, the topic which you propose, we give you +1. If you come up with something original, we give you +2. You propose it to us, you give us up to 2 working days, which means if you deliver it on Friday evening, don't expect us to answer during the weekend. Or if you deliver it on the 31st of January, we will be all hangover and partying on the 1st, so we will not be answering on the 1st. Jokes aside, we ask you to give us a couple of working days for us to check and say, okay, it's good, no, it's not good. And in case you have another topic, and we refuse it and you have another topic, you're free to do so within the limits of decency, okay? Because if everybody resubmits until they get accepted, this becomes 1,000 topics, which we have to agree, 1,000 topics. There will be a LaTeX template, which is going to be there today/tomorrow. I'm just super tired, so as soon as I have it, I'll put it there. Deadline is the date of the exam. Okay, January 25th. You give it sooner, good. You give it later, tough luck. But mostly deliver it by January 25th. We have decided, if I'm not mistaken, that this assignment is to be delivered for the January session period.
No, we said
also for February.
Also for February.
Okay, so for January or for February. Okay.
But if you present for January, then we can correct and give you the marks for the February session if you want to do the February session exam.
But we do not allow correct and redo, right?
Yes, no.
So this report which you deliver, you can deliver it either on January or on February as you prefer. But if you don't like the mark, you cannot do it again on the next session. Okay? Just a point of kindness, because this is more volume for us to evaluate than a single exam. So we give you this option, but it's not that if you take 14 and I wanted 15, you keep redoing it until you get 15. Otherwise, this is the never-ending story for us. Okay?
Can you tell us the probable deadlines for example, in February?
You have it when I see that.
The exact exam.
Yes.
So it should be January 25th and February 13th, 12, something like this. Okay? When? 12, 13, something like this. I'm not 100% on that. I remember it's January the first, which is like 14, there you go. Well, if you do it in LaTeX, we ask you to deliver the source because we will compile all of these together in a book of the best. So effectively, we will strip the front page and the footer, and the bibliography, and we will just all bunch them all together, which means that if you give us the source, it's easier to do. If you don't have the source, it's become a nightmare. Okay. Doubts, questions that we can address now?
We have to write the document
or in Google Docs, as you prefer. If you do it in LaTeX, it's easier for us. But this doesn't affect in any way, shape, form, or anything your evaluation. We deliver what we deliver. We evaluate what we deliver. That's it. We do not go into. We don't say you're going to put in that. Okay. If you can do it in LaTeX, it's better because it's less work for us. But we can't ask you. Okay. So I will send this as soon as we're finished with the class. Like 4:15, you will have the email. Take your time, read it. Any questions? Please come tomorrow. We will answer the questions regarding the exam at our discretion via email. This means do not expect us to answer like this, because we take an entire day to present this tomorrow, to take questions. And since the question is always the same, how many pages, how many points, how many, this will be addressed tomorrow. Okay, maybe the note keepers, if they are there tomorrow, they can make an FAQ or something. But otherwise, we will not answer the questions via email if there's something which is already known. No. Okay, this is good. You need to sign up on SETRE for the date in which you want your mark to be registered. You do not need to physically come here. Okay?
We don't have to sign up.
You do have to sign up on SETRE.
But we don't have to.
But you do not have to show up. This is because we ask you to sign up just because we have a spreadsheet with all the marks and all the things. And as you sign up and we register the mark, we track it on the spreadsheet and we can see if everybody is green, we're happy. If everybody is red, there's a problem. So please sign up on SETRE, but you don't need to show up. Sorry? The non-attending exam follows the same format which we have been done for 5+ years, which is that of you come here. This is, by the way,
is it the same day or
it's on January 25th at the time and place which is on SETRE.
Okay, but there are two types of one for the for whom
Yes. So if you sign up in January and you're not in the class, we assume that either you have delivered the reports or you just skip that session. Sorry. Reasonable enough. Okay. If you show up on the 25th for the exam call, I'm assuming that you will not deliver papers and reports, except for the bank reports, which I think is an addition. Right. Okay.
And the exam is for the attending students are 2 open questions.
Without the checkboxes.
Without the checkboxes. So just 2 open questions on to topic of the class, and plus 1 other open question which is not mandatory for attending students regarding a button, a specific button. While for not attending students, they need to do all the 3 open questions, plus some checkboxes.
So, sorry?
Yes. Yes, because
if you want to take the written exam, if you don't want to deliver the individual assignments and you want to take the written exam instead, you are free to do so. You show up, you do 2 open questions, which are usually, because of fairness to non-attending students, on the papers. We will ask you, according to the social innovation report of Bonifacio, what are the 3 main types of social innovation, how do they impact society, and all this. Okay? Or you give these 2 reports. This one and the one on the blending. Okay? So this one and the one on the blending are the equivalent of the first 2 questions on the written exam. Alright, so we hope you enjoyed the course. If you have other questions on the exam, show up tomorrow. No attendance tracking tomorrow. It's totally optional. 2 to 3, take 1 hour, possibly a bit more. And yeah, it was actually a very pleasant course for us. We hope it was for you too. See you. We will see here all the insults, so it's fine. Good. Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a good holiday.